How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
Welcome to the next episode of the Tactical Empire. Today we have a very special show, guys. We are moving to 2 times a week now. So we will be dropping an episode on Mondays and Thursdays now. And the reason that we're doing that is because behind the scenes, we have been building a company, a group of men, with this that shares the same name as the podcast, the Tactical Empire. And so what I want to do is I want to bring on the newest associate partner on the team, Shawn Rider, who has been a client of mine for years. We'll get to kind of his origin story a little bit and talk a little bit more about that. But ultimately, the reason we're rolling out a second podcast a week is to provide more education and more content behind like what we do in the group as well. So Mondays will be formatted the way they've been, either with just me or with me and a guest talking about their entrepreneurial journey and things like that. And then Thursdays are going to be Shawn and I chopping it up, going over questions, kind of current events, whatever, and discussing like the goings on within the Tactical Empire community. And putting more education and content out there for you guys that are trying to build your own shit and ultimately kind of buy yourself freedom and buy yourself kind of the lifestyle that you choose for yourself and your family, right? So welcome, Shawn. Thanks for coming on, man. I'm excited about this opportunity. I'm excited to ramp up to 2 times a week. I'm stoked to have you as part of the team, and welcome.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for introducing me. So, I know if people have listened to the podcast enough, they've heard you and me talk before about some of the things that I've done. And we didn't dive too deep into where I came from and exactly how all that was laid out. But, at the end of the day, you've been leading me in my life as a mentor for 4 years now. And I can single-handedly let people know that the principles that you teach and the areas of focus that you make men put in front of their life to be on the plan, to be the things that they take action on and forget about the rest. It works. You've helped me become super focused on the most important areas that help men get where they want to go. So I couldn't be any happier to be a part of that now and help people who were in my shoes a handful of years ago, like I was, help them do that now. So I appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing how this group expands even further than it has in the past 2 years that you've run it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to have you along with on the ride, to having implemented like step by step pretty much like all of the teachings that we espouse, and watching your life change and your family change and your bank account change and all the other things that go along with it has just been fun to watch. And I think it's important that we continue to get the message out there and spread the word, because I think even this last week, you and I were together and there's so much misinformation, and that's the part that concerns me. I think people have been beat into this mindset of like limited beliefs. And like, that's one of my core functions of like rewiring that thought process into like, no, you're getting what you get right now in life because you're fucking doing what you believe you believe you're supposed to be doing and you've always done. And that's why your results are consistently the fucking same that they've always been. Mm-hmm. And like, my mission is to like teach people that there's a different way. Like, we talk about qualified accounts and shit like that when it comes to investments. And I can't stand qualified accounts, as you know, but for the same reasons that you can't stand them now. Right. And I think people's mindsets are parallel with those qualified accounts. Like, you know what you know because of your family, because of your education, because of the path that you took, which was ingraining these beliefs into your head at all points that, like, okay, if you can make six figures someday, you'll be a great success. Or you grow up, go to college, get a job, sit in a cubicle and work 9 to 5 for 50 years. And when you're 65 years old, they give you some pension, hopefully. And then that's when you actually start living and doing the things that you desire to do. And I mean, ultimately, that's where this whole group kind of came from, because I lived that fucking story for a very long time until I started. I'd always questioned all of it. It took me a while to start fitting the pieces in the right holes. And now I just think that it's an important message to get out. And I think you're doing a great job kind of teaching and leading those same thoughts and principles.
The thing that I'm seeing from a lot of people that I've been working with, as a personal coach and business mentor and whatnot, is they just, what you said about being ingrained. The common denominator that I see is people have this either or mentality. I either can do this or I can do that. I can only do this and then not do that. And when we reframe from an either or to this and, you can do and be all of these things. You can be so much more than what you are. You can do so much more than what you are. You can find things that allow you to do more than one thing with it from a financial perspective. Like, it's like, oh, you have to, you either have a career or you have a shitty home life, or you either have your health and no money, or you invest for retirement and have no lifestyle spending now. It's like, no. That's not how it really is. The most successful people in the world that I've been exposed to and that I follow, they have an abundance mindset. They have I can do everything. I can be good and great at everything. I will not be a perfectionist at everything. I will not be perfect at everything, but I can have very few major areas of my life that make the greatest impact. People hear about Pareto's principle. 20% of your actions will reap 80% of the results. If that holds true, why are we doing the other 80%? If we can just take our focus into the top 20% of actions that yield the highest results, and you provide yourself the opportunity and buy yourself the time to focus on those things more and start that compounding effect, yes, it will not happen overnight. Your life will not be flawless and 10 times better overnight, but it will be better with time. When I got exposed to you, I think some people have this mindset where it's like they see someone that already has millions of dollars of real estate, and it's like, man, that must be nice, and it's easier for them now. But they always forget that person started with their first investment, and their first investment wasn't necessarily a home run. But it started with that first moment, that first lesson that they learned, and then they ultimately took action on that. And that's one thing that you've ingrained in my mind, and probably you've had to do it harder at times with me over the past 4 years. But the more I've opened myself up to being able to do more than one thing at a time that I believe is going to reap financial benefits and positive impacts in my life, not just from a financial point of view, the more I've opened myself up to that. To keep it simple, the better my life has become. Yeah. And it's time to help more men do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, for simplicity's sake, what I say about the group is that, like, we're a group of men that are trying to be better husbands, better fathers, and make a fuck ton of money. Like, for just simplicity's sake, that's what we are doing. And if the byproduct of that is we create a bunch of leaders out in their communities, I think that's important. And the ripple effect from that impact is going to be large. And so that we had a conversation with Trace the other day, and he was saying the same thing. The guy's a pastor, and so obviously we use different language, he and I, and we were texting back and forth, and he's like, man, I really love all the impact this group has had and everything that it's done for me. And I texted him back and I said, listen, man, like, you and I are on the same mission. We share the same values. We just use different language in our approach. And that really resonated with him. So I mean, I think that the great thing about having the camaraderie of the group is to be able to like lean on the other people in the group. Like I put it together, I kind of organize it and run it, but like ultimately I want it to be a community, a tribe, an army of men that are leaning on each other to grow collectively. And so everybody should be getting better in all the different areas, right? And I think that that's one of the most fun things to watch everybody grow. And obviously, the biggest chinks in most people's armor are like their foundational stuff at home. Which was my exact case. Like I was figuring out money and business and things like that and winning over there. And I had a dumpster fire at my house, right? Like because those things were very uncomfortable for me though. I didn't know how to be a husband or how to be a father. So like
Right.
I'm tripping through all those things. Whereas like business is very binary to me. I see it and like it's numbers, like sales, leads, that like strategically that makes sense to me. I can build something there. Whereas the home life is all emotional and volatile, right? And it doesn't. I mean, it's not volatile, but like it just the simplicity of what you talked about with the Pareto principle, though, it is exactly how you get the results, which is why we broke it down into the 4 categories. And if you just touch those 4 things every day, you're going to have a better, more fulfilling life. Like,
Yeah, I think for me, as a former athlete, I got into sports at 5 years old. I had 2 older brothers, and so as I found the sports that I liked, at the end of the day, football ended up becoming my main thing. Like, you won or you lost, right? And that's what I liked about sports. And I'll come back to it from a team dynamic, but from an individual perspective, like I was very introverted. I didn't go out of my way. I still have some of those tendencies. I don't go out of my way to introduce myself to new people, and because I want to talk to them for 2 hours, I have to stretch myself to put myself in a position to do that. But the sports, the scoreboard talked for me. Right? Like I just performed, let the score take care of itself, and then let everyone decipher what that meant to them when you're walking off the field victorious. And that taught me a lot of positive things about life. But fast forward into my late 20s and early 30s, I liked business. I was growing my first business, my gym. And of course, I saw the sales. And to me, that was, quote, winning. Now I believe, business is a never ending game until you bow out and move on to the next thing. But when I got married, there's no scoreboard in marriage. And I really struggled with that because I couldn't check in and see where I was. Oh, I'm married. Oh, we love each other. Oh, we go on dates together. But there wasn't anything to put ourselves up against and be like, are we, again, it's not a win-loss, but are we winning this thing called marriage? Now, if you go back to Simon Sinek's whole finite versus infinite game, like I get that terminology, and marriage is an infinite game, right? There's no endpoint. There's no win or loss. There's no scoreboard. You're just the game is to just keep playing the game. And business is that way too, but it's a little bit easier to have KPIs with business. And what I like about what the Tactical Empire provided to me was I was on teams from age 5 forward. And I'm very thankful and very grateful. I make this post every now and again on social media, but most people probably haven't seen it. Is I was very grateful and thankful and fortunate to be on winning teams my whole life. Talking about football, we started organized football in the 4th grade. I played from 4th grade to sophomore year of college at Appalachian State as a walk-on. From 4th grade, whatever age that is, I can't do the math in my head, age 11, 12, to sophomore year of college, which is age 20. The football teams I was on, we had a total of 10 games lost in that span, right? So all of middle school, all of high school, 2 years of college, I lost 10 times on the football field. So I don't really know what it feels like to be a consistent loser. And I learned a ton about how to win, the teams that be on, the work that teams do, the culture that winning teams have, the leadership that winning teams have, the expectations that winning teams have, the accountability that winning teams have. And then you graduate and you move into adulthood, and you can either be on a winning team or be on a losing team. You can be in a good culture, be in a bad culture, but what's the game plan when you're stuck in a job for the first time, earning money for the first time, and you become scared to get off a losing team? That's how people get roped into this. I'm just gonna hold out on this job and just keep it for a little bit. Then you fast forward 10 years, they're still in the same shitty job because they slowly promoted them and gave them more money, and they haven't done anything proactive to actually make themselves quote unquote win. And what the Tactical Empire has done is it's bringing men together that want to progress, that want to do more, that want to be on a pathway to success, however they define it. We're going to help them solidify that. But you're going to be on a team of winners. You're going to be on a team of guys that aren't going to create excuses and just be okay with the status quo for the next 5 to 10 years. I don't want to be around people like that. And that's why I've taken the action I've taken, because it's kind of hard to sit back and twiddle your thumbs when you're seeing men that are doing things really, really well, and they're holding you accountable to you doing the same thing with your life.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's fun to be around high achievers. It's fun to be around high performers that have high expectations, because naturally as human beings, we ebb and flow with our emotional states. Some a little bit higher, some a little bit lower than others, but like it's natural to do that. So you go through different seasons, and it's great to be surrounded by people that you see just moving things constantly. And I know that a lot of people get intimidated by that type of environment.
Sure.
And I think it's completely, it's the wrong thing to do. Like like, as long as you can create a culture where it's not like cutthroat and people are assholes, like, and that's what I think we do a great job of, creating a culture where we raise people up. And like, if you're getting left behind, it's not like, well, that fucking guy sucks. And it's kind of like, well, what changes do you need to make to keep on going? Because the easiest thing to do is just get lost on the island, like you're talking about, like, and fall into the status quo of the daily monotony. Because there's enough shit out there that we have enough inputs on a regular basis to keep us busy and never move off of where we're at, like our current lot in life, or our current position, our current job, our current income level, house, whatever it is. Most every single person in the world has wants and desires. I mean, 100% of people have wants and desires of what they'd like. Most people just give up on those dreams because they don't see the path to get there. And being around high performing people pushes you every single day. And so when we talk about your fitness, your family, your finances, and your freedom, it really is like, build out your own habit stack there amongst those 4 pillars, and then execute on them and allow the compounding interest to start paying dividends. And really, that's ultimately how you make change. But being fearful that people are moving too fast around you is not something you should be concerned with. You have to jump in order to make change. Because like, if nothing changes, nothing changes. That's a famous saying, right? And so if you've said no to the last 10 things because you're scared, you probably should understand that about yourself and your results, right? Because you should be changing on a regular basis. If you're in the same place you were 3 years ago, like, you should really do an internal audit on how your life is progressing.
There's a lot there, and I love all that. I want to say something for the people that maybe listen to podcasts that aren't in the inner circle. I think it'd be very easy for people to hear us speak once, or hear us on a couple episodes, like, man, these are just high achievers and they're getting after it, going. And yeah, they will leave me behind. Or people within the group that may not have to take action in the last 30 to 90 days. They may feel like they're behind other people. One thing that they don't see are, number one, inside of the Tactical Empire, the inner circle, right? Men are very vulnerable and they feel comfortable being vulnerable to this group of men. And as long as they raise their hand and say, hey, I need help, man. Like all of us have struggled with our kids. All of us have struggled in our marriages. And just because John, Bill, and David are progressing and they just crush this real estate deal, doesn't mean I can't speak up and say, hey, I need someone to walk me through this thing that's not this big real estate deal. I am struggling with this. I have missed my workouts for 2 weeks. I feel like a piece of shit. And I just need a little TLC. And like, there is empathy within that group, right? There's empathy and there's authority. And we're going to show you empathy to the situation you're in now, but we're going to get you extremely focused on, like you said, the happy stacks, right? Usually when people aren't feeling great or they're moving in quote unquote the wrong direction, is they've gotten away from their habits that they know are what's best for them. Someone asked in the Tactical Empire free community page on Facebook, hey, my goal is this real estate deal. And I said, okay, well, what's your goal for yourself personally? And he's like, I don't even know where to start. Well, you start with your auditing your daily habits and figure out the ones that are serving you and figure out the ones that aren't serving you. Make a commitment to continue the ones that are serving you and make a commitment to stop the ones that aren't serving you. That's step one. Right? This whole, like everything you heard me speak this weekend on my personal pyramid of wealth. Today's podcast isn't about that, but literally before you start building a pyramid of wealth, you have to have the foundation built. And the foundation is your daily healthy habits. Well, being healthy has nothing to do with wealth. Bullshit. Like, I totally disagree with that statement. I'm looking at wealth from more than one angle, but even building a wealthy life financially, like I don't want your life if you're just wealthy and you don't have any health and you don't have a consistent daily habit that you're taking care of that benefits you, because it's all going to trickle into other areas of your life. So I want men out there and women that listen to this podcast, like just because people are progressing doesn't mean that they're not willing to pause for a moment and help hear the needs and desires and the emotions that you're struggling with right now, because we've been there and I go through that still to this day, but I've gotten way better at recognizing those moments faster and getting out of that position faster than I ever have before. And that to me is one of the goals of why we're bringing this group of men together.
Yeah, having worked with like thousands of people, I can tell you right now that like the money in the business is literally the easiest part. And to the point where like I lead with that on a lot of calls now, in that like getting money is easy. That's the easiest thing. Like something else is broken on the lead up to business and finance that's causing your limitations or your ceilings. And I mean, I ran into that myself, and I probably had 3 years of the same income somewhere in my early 30s. And like, I hit a ceiling and I couldn't make any more money. And it was fucking driving me crazy. And all it did was make me go harder, work more, and think I could solve the problem by, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So I just kept hammering, and like, and that was when like my epiphany moment kind of came, and I kind of had to fix all my shit. So my foundation was a mess. And like, so the worse I got stuck thinking that the money and the business was the issue, the harder I went down that rabbit hole. And the more distant I got from my family, the more distance I got from being a great present father, the more distance I got from trying to engage my wife and understand like what she needed from me. And like, it was just a weird spiral that most people are unaware of unless someone smacks you in the face with it, or unless you like have some catastrophic events come to open your eyes. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really important for people to understand, is that like most people are just like, I can solve my problem if I could get $2,000 more a month. And I'm like, that's not the fucking problem. You would make that money instantly if you would fix all your other shit.
And therefore, from a business owner perspective, we're so afraid that our business is going to go in the wrong direction for an extended period of time, or God forbid, we even have a decrease in sales for one freaking month. And I want to reiterate something you said here is like business is the easy thing. Whatever it is within that business, it's easier to get XYZ. It's easier to grow XYZ percentage. And I want to extend that statement to it's also easier to recover your business after a downturn. It's going to be a lot harder to turn your health around. It's going to be a lot harder to turn your marriage around. It's going to be a lot harder to turn the relationship you have with your kids around. Everyone probably listening to this podcast, and I know that's an absolute term and I don't like using those, but many people listening to this podcast know someone who let those things go by without any attention for far too long. And you don't want to blink and fast forward 10 years and then try and fix those things. You can take a little less attention. You can take away attention from your business and focus on these other things, because your business will be a hell of a lot easier to turn the ship around on than the other areas of your life, your health, your marriage, your relationship with your kids. So don't be afraid to even vocalize it to your team, right? I still own a gym. I vocalized to my team, hey guys, I need 90 days to go focus on this other venture. Okay. Here's the things that we need in place so you guys don't need to lean on me as much. Here, boom. And then I go and focus on those things that I need to focus on for the next 9 days to get me closer to the life that I want to live in whatever area that is. So this is your permission, business owners, to just tell yourself, my business will bounce back. Do I want you to ignore it for the next year? No, I don't. You still are going to work. You're still going to show up. You're still going to do what needs done to progress your business forward. But don't be afraid to give yourself and allow yourself the time to pause and be like, these other things are important. What do I need in this moment? And that question is a hell of a lot easier to answer when you're surrounded by men that have already done it. And that's what I needed. That's what I needed 4 years ago. So, thankful that, I was introduced to you and came into that environment of men.
Yeah, I think that just to set the record straight, I was in no way saying that like business is easy and everybody should be killing it. So like,
Sure.
don't misinterpret that side of things. But to Shawn's point, I think the quicker you flip the switch in understanding that, like, if this like business life is for you, like creating and building businesses and being an entrepreneur, if it's truly for you, like it never is going to end. So you have to bring everything else along with you. And for me, I'm a family guy, I'm married, 4 kids, like all of that stuff. Same with you. Like I need all that stuff to come with me, because it's not like I'm ramping up for this 4-year exit where I'm going to leave with $7 billion. And like, that's not the game. And anybody honestly that can build that type of 10-figure exit is not leaving either. Like, cause you're not wired like that to be able to build something like that and then walk away from it. And, in general, most people wouldn't be. But like, if the more you can reframe your thought process to understand that it's like a forever game. You mentioned the infinite game earlier. Like that is a game changer from a mindset standpoint. Because it's not like run, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. I despise that culture of things because it's unnecessary. Like being organized and being consistent is where you make changes. And business is exactly the same way. If you fix all your habit stacks in your 4 pillars and you just do them every single day, you're going to be fit. You're going to have a better marriage. You're going to be a better father, and you're going to make more money. Because if you do that shit and check those boxes every day, you can't avoid it, because the fruits come from consistency with regards to everything. And the mundane stuff that isn't sexy and flashy is what gets the results. And I've studied more and more business owners as I've kind of come up through the game. And like the thing that I find fascinating is that the really, what you would consider really successful people in business generally are the ones that are around after like 12 to 20 years, if you will. Like that's really when they start to hit their mark. And so like, if you can just consistently stay in the game and show up and take reps and do what you're supposed to be doing, like all of those fruits are going to be there. And there's really no way to avoid the work. So the faster you can get started in accepting it and not chasing shiny objects, because I've done that stuff, I've tried to pay for the courses or whatever that are going to fast track you to $10 million. And like, none of that stuff worked for me. I mean, I'm sure maybe it's worked for somebody. But for me, it's just the slow, boring, mundane movement. And yes, I'm down the road a little bit more than some people. So they see me doing things and they're like, to your point from earlier, man, like none of it ever changes. You just get bigger problems. So like when I had a problem that was $1,000 problem 10 years ago, it's now $100,000 problem or more. And so like, first two things, you careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful on like the plan you structure and like what the vision for your life looks like and the stress you're willing to deal with and what you're willing to put up with. But also that there's no avoiding that middle ground. The muddy middle is where you pick up the skills that allow you to continue to make progress and really get there. And so that's why I'm so stoked to have you and some of the younger guys in the group. Hell, we've got 3 guys that I think are under 24 years old in there. So like, those are guys that really excite me, that are fun to work with because man, their life can be entirely different than the conceptualized life that we grew up in with like the work from 25 to 65 mentality. Like those guys don't have to do any of that shit. They're in the right room. They're going to be retired by 30 and punching their own ticket. I'm sure they won't be retired because they're hungry, but like at 30 years old, they'll be financially free enough to do whatever they want to do, which is super amazing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting and exciting to see them come on up. And I think I was in like I said, it goes back to I was on good teams. I wasn't, it took me a while once I became an adult to get into the right rooms to continue to progress forward. So kudos to the young men, but even for the people that aren't in their 20s, like some of the guys that are in the tactical empire, if we're going to live to be 80, 90, 100 years old, we all have still quite the runway to go. And it's that dichotomy and that's the ebb and flow between patience and urgency that I've been vocalizing to a few people. Some people see the posts that I make on the progress that I've made, and they're like, you did X $5.5 million of real estate in 18 months. It's like, okay, yeah. But that took me a lot of patience to get to that point. And then even between the 3 or 4 deals that I did, 6 months nowadays in the year 2023 going into 26 months is a freaking long time, guys. Like, and here's what the time's going to go by anyways. So when you recognize that time is going to tick and you want something, you need to be around guys that are going to help you take that 3-year plan and crush it in the next year, because it is possible. You do not need 3 years. We're going to educate you and keep you patient for the right thing. But once that right thing comes, we're going to shorten the window you have to hesitate. And that's been a game changer for me. And it will be pretty incredible to see some of the guys coming into the group make more progress in a shorter amount of time than they ever thought possible. And I can be the living example of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. You have been an excellent executor and action taker of the program.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the future episodes, we're going to be talking about different things, guys, not just the tactical empire. We're going to hit up on different questions you guys have and some other tips and tricks, investment stuff. If you have questions that you want to send us, let us know. And Shawn, I appreciate your time today. Yep. And do you have anything else for the people?
No, we definitely are going to have more specific topics moving forward as we see questions come up, not only in the inner circle, but the free community group. So you and I have conversations with business owners and just people that are trying to win every single freaking day. So there's going to be topics that come up that you and I can, text on and bring up into the episode. So this is just episode number 1 of where we're going from here, where we've been, what we've done, and what we foresee for the future. So just stick with us and just chime into the new episodes as they come rolling out over the coming weeks and months and years.
Perfect, dude. Perfect. Not to exclude the W-2 earners out there. If you guys are looking to make the leap or bridge the gap and get out of your job, there are a handful of guys in there as well doing that, and we can help you. Jump in the Tactical Empire community on Facebook. We share a bunch of things out there. We are active out there answering questions, things like that. It's absolutely free. If you have any topics or issues or just want to ask about different things that we use to structure our days or whatever, hop in there and ask a question. We'd love to have you. That is it, man. I will see you next Thursday, Shawn.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the show. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Tactical Empire.